Bonjour French 102 students, bienvenue au vidéo 8 du chapitre 4. Okay, so we're in now video 8 of chapter 4. Hard to believe we're almost at the end of our chapter. We have maybe one or two more videos to release tomorrow or Friday, and we're at the end of chapter 4 already. So the topic of this video lesson would be le week-end prochain. The important word here is prochain, which means next. So we're talking about next weekend. And what that's really going to introduce us to is a way of talking about the future. Okay, in French, we have two ways to express the future. We can use an expression that's similar to going to, or we can actually conjugate verbs in a future tense. We won't be learning a future tense here in French 102. That will come, I believe, a little bit later on. For now, we're going to learn a somewhat simpler way to do that, which is with this going to kind of expression. And we use this in English all the time, so it should be pretty easy to understand how to put this all together. Okay, so we'll start by looking at this opening sentence. Okay, I'll put myself right here for just a second. I'll kind of float myself around the screen to look at different parts. Okay, Robert va passer. Okay, it's important to look at this one first before we go any farther. Robert va passer. Okay, the verb va. What does this one mean? Okay, it means goes, right? It comes from the verb aller. So if you remember aller, just to do a quick review of the conjugation, it would be je vais, tu vas, il, elle, on va. So Robert is now, it's il va, Robert va. Et nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. That's our conjugation of the verb aller. Okay, so Robert goes, or in this case, it would be better to translate this as is going. In French, it can be either one. A present tense verb can be either the normal form like goes, or it can be the is going form. In English, those are two different tenses for us. It's a present tense or a present continuous. So we're going to go with the continuous one now because it makes the most sense in this sentence. So Robert is going. What is he going to do? Passer. Passer means to spend, like to spend time. And when you see this when you see this ER ending right here, you know that this is what we call an infinitive verb. It means that it hasn't been conjugated. So that's basically the formula. It's, if I can type it up here, it is like aller plus infinitive. And when I say aller, I mean the conjugated form of aller. So Robert va, a form of aller, passer le week-end. He is going to spend the weekend. Et Robert va passer le week-end prochain, next weekend, à la Nouvelle-Orléans. Orléans, so in New Orleans. Et vous? Okay, so what about you? Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire? Oh, can you imagine what this question is asking? It's asking what you are going to do. So qu'est-ce que is basically a long way of saying what. So what are you going to do? You are going, vous allez, to do, faire. Okay, your response can be this, one of these two options right here. Either je vais, which is I am going, or je ne vais pas, I am not going. Okay, so you can choose either one of those. We have several activities here, right? So we have quitter la maison tôt. So quitter means to leave. Leave, it looks like quit in English, but it has a little different meaning in French. It looks similar to our word quit. So quitter la maison. Oh, leave the house tôt, early. We see it's 7 a.m. there, right? Another option is partir pour le week-end, so going away for the weekend. Visiter une autre ville, visit another town or city. Okay, so I could say je vais quitter la maison tôt, je vais partir pour le weekend, je vais visiter une autre ville. Maybe I'm not going to do some of these things. I could say je ne vais pas quitter la maison tôt, je vais quitter la maison tard. I'm going to leave late. Je ne vais pas partir pour le weekend, je vais rester chez moi. I'm going to stay at my place. Je ne vais pas visiter une autre ville, je vais rester dans ma ville. I'm going to stay in my city. Okay, so I would like you, in this interactive part of the video, I would like you to choose one thing that you are going to do from these three activities and one thing that you are not going to do. And all you have to do is put them together. Je vais and then add one of these options. Or je ne vais pas and then add one of these options. So I will let you go ahead and do one of those now. Okay. So those are not the only activities we can talk about. We can go ahead and look at a few more using the same expressions. So I can actually even add those right here so you don't forget about them. So we can say, and I'll just put them in a different color here, je vais or je ne vais pas. Okay, so I can say je vais faire un tour de la ville. So I'm going to do a tour of the city, a visit of the city. Je vais aller boire quelque chose au café. I am going to go drink something at a cafe. Quelque chose is something. Et je vais rentrer tard. I'm going to rentrer, come back. It's literally like saying re-enter. Entrer is enter. Put the R in front of it, like R-E, and it becomes re-enter, come back. Je vais rentrer tard, late. I can say that I'm not doing these things. Je ne vais pas faire un tour de la ville. Je ne vais pas aller boire quelque chose au café. Notice, when I say aller boire after je ne vais pas, I need to do a liaison. Pas becomes pas. Je ne vais pas aller boire quelque chose au café. Okay, and finally, je ne vais pas rentrer tard. Okay, so again, I'm going to ask you to come up with two things that you are going to do or not do. So, je vais plus one of these activities. Je ne vais pas one of these activities. So I'll let you go ahead and record those now. Okay. All right, so all of that leads us to basically kind of analyzing the grammar just a little bit more. The first couple of slides were more about the vocabulary, like places you would go or things you would do next weekend. And what we call that sort of future tense that I'm teaching you about is le futur immédiat. So immédiat means immediate, like the immediate future. In English, we have either going to as one way to express the future, or you can use will before a verb, like I will do that or I will go there. And generally, the distinction between those two is that going to is more immediate. It's like something you're set to do right in this very close to the future moment. It's really certain that it's going to happen. Will might not feel as immediate, I guess. So think about it from your own perspective as a native English speaker. Do you think going to seems more immediate than will? I feel like it is. So that's why this is called le futur immédiat. Okay, so to say what you are going to do, as we saw in the previous two slides, we use a form of aller followed by an infinitive. We see that with a bunch of examples here. Je vais étudier, so we've got a liaison between the S and the E here. Je vais étudier. Je vais is a form of aller going with je. Étudier is the infinitive form of that verb. Tu vas travailler. So you are going to work, travailler. Il, elle, on va lire. So he or she or one is going to read. Nous allons rentrer. Hey, of course, we have a liaison between the S and the A. Nous allons rentrer. We are going to come back. Vous allez sortir. You are going to leave or go out. Ils or elles vont nager. Nager is to swim. So she, or let's say they, it could be either a masculine group, a feminine group, or a mixed group using il. So, ils vont nager, elles vont nager. Okay, so now we can ask a question about all those activities. Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire demain? Okay, so what, qu'est-ce que, est-ce que is basically an expression you add to pretty much any statement to turn it into a question. Okay, que just makes it more like what. So what are you going to do tomorrow? Okay, tu vas, you are going to do tomorrow. So qu'est-ce que tu vas faire demain? What are you going to do tomorrow? Okay, so one example of that would be je vais sortir. So I am going to go out. Okay, and so I can ask you to tell me what you are going to do tomorrow. And you could use any verb that fits that blank for you. So you could say je vais étudier, je vais sortir, je vais lire, je vais rentrer chez moi. Je vais étudier le français, je vais manger, any verb that comes to your mind. Just give me one simple answer to that. Okay, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire demain? Okay, and of course we can talk about what we're not going to do, and we saw that in the first couple of slides with le week-end prochain also. So in the negative, of course, you can put ne pas around the aller verb. So je vais, je ne vais pas. I think it's even helpful to put this in a different color so it stands out a little bit. Je ne vais pas sortir ce soir. Very often in quick speaking, je ne becomes je ne. Je ne vais pas sortir ce soir. So I'm not going to go out tonight. Okay, so you could go ahead and give me an example of something you are not going to do. So you could say, je ne vais pas manger, je ne vais pas étudier le français, je ne vais pas sortir ce soir, je ne vais pas écouter ma professeure. Okay, it could be any one of those things. So you could go ahead and give me an example of something that you are not going to do. Okay, and finally, to wrap things up, we can go back to talking about le pronom I, which means basically there. So you place that pronoun when needed immediately before the infinitive. So the infinitive is the verb that comes after the form of aller. Okay, ma sœur va aller en boîte. My sister is going to go to a club, to a nightclub, to go dancing. Mais moi, je ne vais pas y aller. So I could say je vais y aller. Let's say I'm going to put this in parentheses so we know that we can take it out or we can leave it there. So I could say je vais y aller, which means I am going to go there. Okay, so I goes before the verb that you do not conjugate, the infinitive. Ne and pas go around the conjugated verb, which in this case is je vais. So, je ne vais pas y aller. Okay, there is a liaison between the S of pas and the pronoun I, because I is a vowel sound. So once again, je ne vais pas y aller. I am not going to go there. All right, and finally, Il y a, there is, there are, becomes il va y avoir. Okay, so if you're trying to say there is or there is or are going to be something, we use this form. Oh, il va y avoir. There is going to be un concert demain. So normally you would say like there is a concert tomorrow. Il y a un concert aujourd'hui. But if you really want to emphasize that it's going to be tomorrow, then you would say il va y avoir. Or il ne va pas y avoir de film. So there's not going to be a film tomorrow. So we have ne and pas around the conjugated verb va. Okay, so this gives you some useful tools, I think, to be able to talk about what is going to happen in the future. It also gave you some vocabulary to be able to talk about some activities that you might be going to do, might be doing later in the future. Okay, so I will see you all very soon for video 9, probably the last video of this chapter, and we're almost to the end of our first chapter. So, au revoir, et à la prochaine!